Okay. I'd like to call the October 27th, 2023 meeting of the County Facilities Committee to order. We'll begin with the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. That was on September 21st. Moved by Supervisor McGowan, second by Supervisor Gerasi. Any discussion, any questions, changes, deletions, etc.? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We'll begin with this morning the airport agenda. And I will let Mr. Robin Knapp lead us.
Take the first one? Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay.
I'll take the first one on the active agenda item. So the first one we have on there is amend budget. And this is to use funding from the deferred revenue that we've had in the past for parking and such that we've had built up over the years to cover the cost of overtime associated with the Balloon Festival this year. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of jump down real quick in the discussion items. For the Balloon Fest this year, for the VIP passes, we sold 350 VIP parking passes and 4 bus passes for a total of $5,850. And then we had for the public parking lot up on Kingsbury Avenue, another $5,544.88 brought in there for a total for parking this year of $11,394.88. I had also budgeted about 11,000 this year in the budget for 2023 for overtime. So the amend budget is just to cover the cost of anything above the what we had budgeted for this year. So
Okay. Motion by Supervisor McGowan.
Again, thank you.
Hang on just a minute.
Oh, sorry.
We got a motion. Second by Supervisor Gerasi. Now, Mr. McGowan.
So sorry, Mr. Chairman. It's in the end, I stopped this one. Really triple feet, I guess, here. Kevin, again, thank you. It was a great festival. Things went well at the airport due to the team leadership we had between me and Robin, but really the team of DPW and everybody was well. But that those are good numbers for the paid parking and some tax money for the other expenses.
starting next year.
Oh, starting next year?
That's why we're using some of the deferred revenue this year to cover the rest of the overtime.
Oh, we didn't do it this year? Oh, we should have been out there collecting money. You know, revenue streams.
Any other questions? And so between these different sources of revenue, it's all covered.
Yeah, it comes under out of one deferred revenue, and it's covering the cost of, you'll see below, the salaries, retirement, Social Security, and Medicare contributions, which was a total of $8,315.
Anyone else? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
No.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. So next. Other discussion item number 1, so.
Yeah, discussion item number 3, to hand that over to Robin to discuss.
So as I think I've mentioned unofficially that we are looking for FAA approval for our airport master plan for our 2024 AIP project. Those discussions begin in November. So in the interim, we have met with 2 consultants or 2 to 3 consultants we have to see who would be best to help us manage that process. Namely Jacobs and McFarland Johnson. Kevin and I had those discussions with both consultants, and I think we are beginning to lean towards McFarland Johnson because of 3 critical reasons that kind of differentiate themselves from Jacobs. They have an excellent public relations committee and management team strategy. Both consultants have a public website that allows members of the general public to track input on our master plan project. However, McFarland Johnson actually has a strategy where they create public forums to allow those individuals who may not necessarily be technologically savvy or have access to computers to actually come and have their voices heard about the next 20 to 30 years, the strategic development of the airport. Similarly, McFarland Johnson has a lot more specialists, for example, environmentalists, grants administration, that can lead to a lot more opportunities as it relates to funding opportunities for the master plan project. And then finally, they have a lot more experience with New York-based airports. So I believe those are the three main differentiating factors that allowed us to lead towards McFarland Johnson to help us at least manage that process with the FAA. It is not confirmed. For the last 3 years, the FAA has not been approving planning projects due to COVID, but we believe that 2024 will be the year that they'll actually approve the master plan project as the project for 2024. And with that said, there's a lot discussed between now and the end of the year. Hopefully we get approval for that project and we keep you guys posted as to the next steps. Any questions or comments as it relates to that process?
How long is this master plan good for? In other words, what time period does it cover?
20 to 30 years.
And when was the last one done?
It expired about 4 or 5 years ago. So we don't currently have that current master plan.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No? Supervisor.
I'm fascinated by that, like I said, and that slipped for so long, and then 30, she's been 30 years ago, so 35 years ago, or 30. That sounds like a wonderful plan moving forward. It's puts us on a larger map. Thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to add, it has been 5 years because the funding wasn't in place. And as Robin just mentioned, FAA was not apt to fund planning type projects. It doesn't necessarily hurt us at all, but it's a significant cost to do a master plan. As you recall, a couple of years ago, one of our supervisors from the from the city of Glens Falls said he would be happy to take it on himself, and we gave him the kind of the green light, and within the first month of him looking at it, he said, I can't do this. There's a lot involved with that. So
If I may, that said, what's the cost breakdown for this as far as who pays what or how much?
It was the same 95-5, so 90% FAA, 5% state, and 5% local.
And the approximate cost, ballpark?
Not yet, not till we get.
yeah, I'm not eventually there yet.
Okay, more to follow, right?
That was 30 years ago, when prices have changed. Yeah, just slightly.
Thank you. Anything else on that? Yes.
Kevin, I thought we had a master plan, because I remember in 06 looking at one.
We do, but it's expired.
Yeah,
But
but
there is-
we've had a master plan right on.
Right, but the master plan, and I can have Robin talk to it, it'll continually change because you're doing different things at the airport. We always do an airport layout plan, which is kind of an update, and they do it with, 10 and 8 type of changes that they've allowed us to do over the years, but now we've done so many changes out there, it's time to.
No, I understand it, but I just remember seeing.
Yeah, we have one in place, it's just that
It hasn't been
updated.
30 years.
Since they first, yeah.
I've been here for years.
What do you think?
Really? Next,
You want me to hit it, the last one?
funding approval for T hangers.
So we received word 2 days ago that Governor Hochul has awarded a significant amount of grant funding for airports throughout New York State. And we were awarded $2.3 million for our T hanger projects. So that was more forthcoming.
Right.
In the future, but we've been awarded 2.3 for our next, and these are the T hangers that we've discussed with the committee.
So we've been replacing, if I may jump in, we'll be replacing the OT hangars that were built in the 1940s
Yep.
there, so.
Good.
Good news.
Yeah, very good news.
That's it.
Anything else? No? Referral, pending item. Okay. So we can, thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
So much. Okay,
So move on to
Thanks, Robin.
thank you.
buildings and grounds. I should mention privilege of the floor. Sorry, I didn't there. Privilege of the floor. Before we get started, no. Okay. Action agenda, new business items.
Scott and I are gonna kind of split these, so I'll let him kind of go. Do you want to do the first one?
The first one is a request to transfer of funds due to the increased usage of and repair for fleet vehicles. We're looking for $7,000 total to be switched over.
That comes from,
Comes from my 413 repair and maintenance building and property.
And to go into fleet management, auto supplies.
okay. Someone want to move that? Supervisor Stroud, second by Supervisor McGowan. Discussion, any questions, comments? Now I'll move it. Motion, all in favor, say aye.
Yeah,
Any opposed? No, thank you.
Next item we have on there is request, I say new contract, the chairman's already signed this contract, so it's actually to ratify the action of the chairman of the board. The reason for the chairman having to sign this is this is our electrical supply for the county through the mega contract with Constellation Energy. I thought they were the end of the year, but they had pointed out that most of their readings on our meters throughout the county ended, there's a fair amount end at the end of October. And then the remainder of them end throughout the month of November. So especially for the ones in the October reading, we had to have the chairman sign the contract ahead of time. So this is for the preferred electric supply for the county. We could go through National Grid and pay the cost, but the already looking at just paying through National Grid and not coming through this mega contract, we're looking at costs from, I think their contract is 96 cents per kilowatt hour. You're looking at over $1 per kilowatt hour with National Grid.
9.6.
Yes, yeah. And I believe some of the other towns, municipalities use this mega contract as well.
Okay,
well, that's good. Thanks.
motion. Supervisor McGowan, second. Supervisor Stroud, thank you. Discussion, any questions, comments? Etc. This is a result of comparing this obviously with National Grid, et cetera.
Yeah, and this contract that we're using through Mega does a contract, or Genesee County puts out an RFP for the entire state, and we're allowed through the piggyback clause to be able to jump on this. And based on just the number of companies that Mega works with, it gets us a much better deal than we would have on our own.
Sure. We got Supervisor Thomas.
What's the current rate? Current rate is, I believe, 55 or 56 cents, so it has increased.
Ooh,
Yes, it has.
decent.
I know. That's the way it is.
40-cent jump.
Just
Supervisor Stroud.
This is for a 3-year contract.
3-year
Yep.
fixed.
For a 3-year fixed, will stay the same for the 3 years.
Yeah. We did 1 year, just don't know, but it's safe.
Good. Anyone else?
So those are a good point. I mean, what was our last contract
3 years.
at 40-something cents?
That,
So you gotta figure they came in, and gave us the bid, you know, electricity went up, they ate a little, so this kind of. So,
they eat quite a bit, and I can kind of give you an example. So we're paying the 55 cents per kilowatt hour right now. And the past year, it's been well up over 90 cents to over $1. So we made out. Do I have a crystal ball that I can tell what it's gonna be 2 years from now? I can't.
well, but this is locking us in for 3 years, that price. So it's still kind of the same thing. They might make a little bit more money, we'll pay a little more. That's. Like Supervisor Strauss says, a gamble. You decide the year.
Yeah, well. We got a little bit lower rate, we're a little bit bigger user. But our water department is huge.
Oh, yeah.
But. You know, is are the electric rates gonna go up in the next 3 years? You know, probably.
Probably are.
I mean, we tied in at 5.5, and, well, you know, and the town went fixed and water department fluctuated. So, you don't know. It's a fairly good price given the market that we have right now. So,
I believe, based on what you see and hear with respect to the state and their viewpoint on natural gas, coal, et cetera, price is probably just going to continue to escalate over the next 3 years.
then you probably want the 3-year term.
Yes,
Yeah, I mean, based on what I've heard the same thing, and I don't want to say I'm friends, I've had good discussions with the gentleman from Constellation Energy about, again, no different than I did with National Grid or what it would be. He says, Kevin, he goes, I can't predict or tell you what it's going to be. He says, but I see the same things in 3 years' time. We're gonna see probably much more of an increase.
Supervisor Conover, do you have a question?
One of the upsides is it gives you a number that's predictable for your budget, right, for budgeting purposes going forward. I don't know, I'm trying to remember if I've ever seen it go down in my time. I'm not sure, but I believe the answer is no, so.
We were also able to, under this, there was probably 5 or 6, maybe more, maybe upwards of 7 accounts that were still with National Grid that we were paying the higher rate. So with this renewal of this contract, we were able to get those 7 accounts under this as well. And we also did the same thing with the next action agenda item resolution would be for direct energy for natural gas. Same thing there. We had other accounts that were not, they were still paying through National Grid. Now we've gotten them all under direct energy and under Constellation.
Anyone else? Supervisor McGowan.
Well, I will pass that on to our community, those rates, can we? Can the homeowners get some bandwagon?
There's other ways we can do it with solar programs and such, yes, but not through this one.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Anyone else? I'll call a question. All in favor, say aye.
Right.
Opposed? Thank you.
The next item on there is a new contract, and this is direct energy or NGR does not end until the end of the year. So this would be for natural gas at a lower cost for the county through the mega contract. And you'll see this, and Frank, I know you'll ask a question, and I'm trying to remember what it was, but I believe we were paying $372 per decatherm, and now we're at $438. So it's not a significant $4.38 to $3.72. That's the difference in those two.
Approve. Second. Supervisor McGowan. Any discussion? If not, call a question. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Next item we have on there is number 4 is request for, again, I say new contract, but it's to ratify the actions of the chairman of the board regarding executing a contract with New York State Unified Court System. Our cleaning and maintenance, basically, that we do at a court, we have a contract with the courts that they pay us every year. That we had a 5-year contract. That 5-year contract ran out in March. Scott's been requesting a new contract with them since then. They finally, September 26th, sent us a new contract. We had the chairman sign it, and it was postdated back to April 1st. So this is for the new contract with the Unified Court System.
Moved by Supervisor Conover, second by Supervisor Stroud. Any discussion? Yes, Supervisor McGowan.
I don't see any numbers on this. Or did they New York take it away from it?
What was your, I'm sorry.
I mean, a contract between, obviously, we get money to do that, correct?
Correct.
So did the contract go up or down?
Contract went up.
The contract went up this time. I don't know. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I'm not sure if Scott has them, can recall them.
I can tell you the last year's was $229,000. This year coming up is $286,000, and it's going to keep increasing through the 5 years.
So we got an increase.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Supervisor Thomas.
Is that in your budget?
That in my budget for next year?
Yeah, I believe I'm not sure
The exact
I think we
numbers.
used the number that we had from this past year, Frank, but it's for that revenue, I will increase that, we'll provide you that number.
So let me ask, these are funds provided by New York State,
To us,
right,
correct.
to to keep the ports clean, et cetera.
Yes, similar to what we have for public health, it's like that maintenance and little rec, they basically cover the cost of that.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, call the question, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, 5, so. Yeah, one.
Okay, 5 is a new contract with a term agreement for the HVAC services. Which is expiring and changing to the new contract.
This would be with BPI
BPI,
services, right?
mechanical services.
Anyone like to move that? Supervisor Strauss, second by Supervisor McGowan. Discussion? Excuse me. Moving on, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next is number 6.
Next item we have on there is to amend the contract. This is to extend a term agreement with new labor rates. So normally, and I don't know how this happened, but normally what we do is when we have a term agreement with one of our vendors, we allow them to do a price escalation based on prevailing wage rate and such that they normally spend. The resolution that we had for this one did not read that, so I'm coming back to committee to look for an amendment to that contract. This is with our electric. There was an increase in prevailing wage rate, which is done twice a year, typically in January or December, and then in June. Based on the price increase in June, they'd like to increase their prices for the contract. We looked at the numbers and you'll see the tab sheet attached on the back. Even with their increase in numbers, they are still lower than any of the ones that we had from the original bid. So I'm bringing it through committee because we didn't have that clause in there to allow them to increase. So I'm bringing it through to committee to allow us to increase those numbers and continue the contract with our electric.
Very good, thank you. Any questions or comments?
You
Supervisor.
want to bring it to the floor?
Good.
But I have a comment too.
Yeah.
Last time I did that, we had to bring it to the floor first, so I'm a little confused.
Oh, we already did, right?
No, we have.
Oh, I'm sorry. So you bring it to the floor and Supervisor Strauss. Thank you. Sorry about that. Now,
Yeah, I think that's fair. I know of our electric, we've been doing work in our buildings for years, and one of the nice things is knowing our buildings, it takes out a little rest of the figuring, so they're all in place in the knowledge of the building, it's the increase that we can do about, so, thanks.
other comments?
So once again, the state of New York whacks the taxpayers with a prevailing wage.
Yeah, and just to add on, I mean, the prevailing wage rates do change twice a year through the Department of Labor. I have something else that when we get into DPW for everyone who'll still be here to talk about something else the Department of Labor just put on counties, in fact, specifically to DPW, which we believe in the New York State County Highway Association thinks it's unfair as well. And I'll discuss that during the DPW meeting, but yes.
But again, the state sets the salary, so, you know, it's there's no option. It's not like we have an option.
Anyone else? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
The last one we have on there, I guess I'll go, it's a miscellaneous resolution to authorize me to exceed my spending limit for one contract. So we used to do a bid for the elevator work throughout the county, but Julie had approached me at one time or another and said, you don't ever spend over $20,000 a year. Why don't you just do it through my service provider agreement? There's a resolution 375 in 2010 that allows me to spend up to $20,000. So This year, and again, we've never spent over that $20,000, so we just started doing it as a service provider agreement. This year, we had a couple repairs. We had the repair here in the county center, and then we have our monthly expenses for the elevator, which is $480 a month.
480 plus minus, basically $860 a month.
Which still keeps, right, which still keeps us underneath the $20,000 a year, but with the repair that we had. Here, and then the significant repair we just had over at. HSB, and other departments are allowed to use my service provider agreement. The sheriff had a $10,000 repair. That put me well over the $20,000 in my. Contract. Now, the one that we're discussing here and requesting the authorization for. Is for $12,000 repair that we had at HSB. That was the main elevator over there. And we were accommodating some individuals by bringing them to the service elevator, but it was an emergency, and I gave them to go ahead and do the work. But it does exceed my limit in that service provider agreement, so I'm asking the authorization for me to exceed that limit.
Supervisor Conover, move. Second by Supervisor Thomas. Discussion? Yes, Supervisor McGowan.
What do you say that price was that we have to move?
$12,413.50. Just one more thing to add on is I do not have. The money in the code. We'll have to transfer money, but it'll be, I'll bring it next committee meeting. It'll transfer money, and we're not asking for new money. It's money that we just have in another budget so that we can move over there. Cover the cost.
Supervisor McGowan.
Yeah, Chris, what happened there? It was such a major repair. What went on over there? Was the-
Basically, the elevator over there that was designed by Otis, it's the bladder was designed upside down. And that's 15 years ago when they put that elevator in. And what happened is eventually the bladder just wore out and it exploded all over the whole column of the elevator shaft. And what they had to do was replace that. Basically, the two bladders that are within that elevator system. I mean, it could still work, but it was just a question of it would eventually just lock itself up. So we had to put it out of service, have them come in and fix it, replace the bladders, clean up the entire elevator shaft. Because again, it exploded all over the place. But that's the way those elevators were designed 15 years ago.
Supervisor Conover.
I mean, I would be willing to amend my resolution to say to authorize the department head to make such it's an internal transfer. To make such transfers as required to cover this expense, so he doesn't have to come back to committee. He's not going to the fund balance or contingency or whatever, he's doing it internally.
Is it between your two reports or does that have to go to?
It's what did Betsy say this morning? It's not within the same. It's going from municipal center contracts, I think, to 60/24.
It's okay, you can do it as long as the departments are under your purview, you can move it. I was gonna say that about your first transfer here too.
Okay.
That's not gonna need a resolution because it's 400 codes with under his. purview.
So it doesn't have to come back to committee. He has authorization already.
Okay.
That's fine, then we're good.
Yes, Supervisor McGowan.
A quick question when I picked up, you said that the bags were filling upside down, or that was the design back then, so they're not taking any family responsibility for this cost?
And that was Otis, and no, they're not. And Otis is not our contractor. It's Barrier Free who's doing the work for us. That's the one that we have under the service provider agreement. But Otis is not taking, that's the way they were installed back then. That was the design, how they were installed back then. Today it's different. Yeah.
So I guess my question, I always ask, like, if I go to order a certain common part and it's way back ordered on, I'd say a toaster or something that I say, is there a problem on this? And of course, they always say there's not a problem. Just, if they're not in stock, a lot of people have supply houses, so I'm just wondering,
Otis would tell you that that wasn't a problem.
yeah, okay. I mean, I see the name all over.
Okay. That it? We have. Yeah, right. Yeah, we move forward. All right, if there are no other questions or comments, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. So you have an additional.
I do, before we get into discussion items, or as part of the discussion item, and she's been waiting here patiently. Aaron, thank you. This is Aaron Brothers for the Public Defender's Office, and we have recently or will recently come up with some space from assigned counsel. And Aaron's here to kind of discuss, because they are really cramped in their space, and she's looking to be able to use that space at the assigned counsel when they move out. To be able to use that space. So I asked her to come to committee and just kind of explain what's going on, and so
If you'd like to step up to the podium, please.
thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
So, yeah, we are actually officially out of space. We have vacant positions. If we were to hire those, then we wouldn't have any place to fill. This space obviously would be beneficial as it's in our same wing. Get closer to the mic. Is that better?
I don't know if it's on, but
Oh, I can hear you.
Okay,
I'll just talk louder.
thank you.
So I wanted to come in, kind of explain our situation. We're very interested in that space. We have been interested in space on campus before. We had looked at space, in the Human Services Building at one point. I think it's really beneficial for all of our people to be as close together as they can, camaraderie, morale. We work really closely together. We do have space, that we rent down at Glen Street, in Glens Falls. We have 3 offices down there. They are occupied. Our Glens Falls City Court attorneys utilize that space. So that's not really extra space that we have right now, as it is all currently occupied. So that's our situation. I think right now we have 5 vacant positions in our office, without anywhere to put them if we were to hire them.
I just want to add on, we have helped before Public Defender's Office too. In fact, they needed some storage area and such. So we provided them some space in the basement for that as well. But I've been through Public Defender's Office, and it's tight. When you have to have one attorney vacate his office so another attorney can use it for whatever reason, that's a tight space. And this would provide them a little bit more space. And as Aaron said, it is in their wing. So I don't think a resolution necessarily is needed. I just wanted to bring it through committee to make sure that everybody's aware of, movements within the facility, because in the past, it's always been a question of who gets moved where and why. So I thought I'd bring it through committee.
Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, thank you, Aaron. After speaking in your little cubicle. Thank God you leave the door open. But I just have to inform you that that space is going out to the highest bidders, so we have to start bidding on this. No, I think it's a great idea. And opening that up. So.
Just a question. Doesn't really have to do with per se, but you say we're down 4 or 5 attorneys. Is that through attrition, or they leave, or they new positions?
So they're new positions. We get grant funding. Part of that has caseload requirements. The grant funding has gone to creating new positions. We have been struggling with recruitment, and getting new attorneys to come on board. I think that we have bridged a lot of those gaps we've created. They're called law intern positions, getting some attorneys before they're admitted out of law school. So we've done some creative things to bring attorneys in. We're definitely moving forward, filling those positions. So desks will be nice.
Good, thank you. Aaron. Anything else? Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Aaron, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Okay, we'll move on to discussion items.
Okay. Work order request program is currently at 4,141 work order done, completed.
That's just for this.
Not for this year. This year, honestly, we are around 2,600 if you want to be specific this year.
Yeah.
Fleet car request program is 2,514 requests completed. Our cars are gone on a daily basis. People are calling constantly to try and see if anybody's brought one back to use.
Good, I think you got a good system here, tracking, et cetera. I mean, it's working good. Thank you.
And then Countryside Adult Home. Update on that is current contract work is West Resident Wing renovations are complete and the wing has been turned back over to the facility. The shower facilities reconstruction underway with completion scheduled for the end of next week. They are finishing up the work on the roof fascia and the canopies underway with the completion scheduled for next week as well. New fire alarm system installation underway with completion scheduled for today, so that should be done. The epoxy flooring installation underway to be completed the middle of next week. Common restroom reconstructions complete. Exterior masonry cleaning, repaint, or repointing underway with the completion scheduled for next week. Administrative area renovations nearing completion scheduled for next week. Commission of VRF 3 HVAC unit to be completed next week. And the punch list development and completion expected through the week of 11/17/2023. There's still a few other items that we've got outside of the contract work that's going to be taken care of, which is relocate the propane tanks, form and pour the concrete pad with new replacement, entrench new supply lines to restore surfaces. The other item under the outside contract work is the facility generator, remove the existing one, form and pour a new concrete pad for the new generator, and trench new service connections to restore the surfaces.
All those will complete the entire project on this.
That's correct. That is correct.
Very good, thank you. Yes, sir.
What I'd like to do is I'll confirm it with Amy McBurn, who's the director up there, but I would like to be able to take the committee through a walkthrough eventually when they wrap it all up, so everybody can see the work that was done up there.
Thank you. Well,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just wanted to mention the Office of Community Renewal, OCR visited Countryside a few weeks ago and just to see how we're handling the project, you know, in response to the grants and everything we received for that. And we received no findings and everything was an commendable rating from OCR.
did that entity provide some of the funding or what are they, just an oversight committee?
Oversight Committee.
Thank you. Anyone? Next is regional more.
Regional mode update. All the data has been received and compiled to derive programming targets for the facility. Meeting was held on 9/29 that included several other county corners to solicit input from facility services, capacities and operational aspects. A draft report submission deadline is November 17th, so we'll be receiving that. And DPW, being us, has requested lead designers attend facilities committee to present their findings.
I was just gonna add on to that, we wanted to get them there for this month, but there was a lack of two counties providing them information. One being us, Warren County, and it was the reason why we were lacking information from our county is our corners didn't kind of converse with one another to know, you know, who should be submitting what information. So we reached out to the corners, we got the information, and then we were still waiting on some information from Hamilton County as well. So now we've received all that information. And as Scott said, they will submit a draft report to us November 17th and then provide the facilities committee with, they'll present that report as well as estimate for work. And we'll go forward with that and decide what we're gonna do.
Thank you. Question? Supervisor McGowan.
I just have to state my total frustration with this whole process of this and how long it's taken there to get this far. And since it started in Warren County, it's the last one to submit. So that just brings out some frustrations in me, but I'm not pointing the fingers, you know, stuff happens. My question is, you know, since we're talking to the regional mayor, is, you know, what we're doing this other planning and discussions and surveys and whatever, all of we have to get this back. We need space in our building, and we have some open space over there. Have we got anything in the future of doing something there, you know, I want to make sure that that area does not go bad again, you know, and I'm waiting and try to move forward, and when we finally decide to move forward. All right, we have to do these studies and go through all this stuff again, and, you know, it's gonna be another 10 years at least.
Superintendent agents.
So as far as, and I think you're referring to the jail facility. So as far as the jail facility, and I don't want to speak to I don't want to speak to the data that they gathered, our consultant has gathered as to where we should have a regional board if it comes to fruition. They looked at two different facilities, two different places. They looked at a standalone facility.
No, I'm not talking about that. I appreciate it, but I know all this, and I'm very familiar, and I'm not interrupting you, but really for time. My main question was, all right, what are we doing with the other square footage that we're not using for the morgue? Do we have a plan? Can we start drafting something up within your team? This takes time, is what I'm saying. But we need, you know, public defenders are up here, wants to grab a room, geez, ideal. You know, they got a second floor over there. I envision how we can do it without spending millions, you know, but.
So to add on or to continue what I was saying, so with the jail area, that's one space that they looked at for the regional board. But if it doesn't come to fruition that we use the jail and we use a standalone facility, which it seems to me based on what they've said so far with the programming, that would be a better option to have a standalone facility. But that jail area, there's been requests before, I think Supervisor Frau had said, you know, in the past, storage area. And nothing's planned for it, because we were going the route with the morgue to see what was going to take place first. If that doesn't come to fruition, we can start planning what I don't know what the need is. And I guess it'll be a kind of I'll ask our county administrator to maybe put something out to all department heads. What's the need? What specifically do we need right here in the county center? Is it just public defender? Is it assigned counsel that are now going down to the city of Glens Falls? Is it, you know, who else? Is it storage? I know Pam was running out of storage in the clerk's office. So maybe it's store. I don't know. That would be the next step that we go to. But for now, the jail is being looked at as the morgue.
Supervisor McGowan.
Kevin? You're awesome. You really are. That was well done. I mean, geez, Carl, I think President of the United States now. Really, all I'm asking is, you know, you've sat here in all these county facility meetings. If we have a general idea what we need, definitely room and storage, or something that we can look into. All I'm saying is let's take a little time that maybe we can do it in-house and do little films. I know you're a little flying over there, and after looking at the employee list, we're missing some engineers. So I'm just trying to keep the ball moving, because the morning is just taking some darn long to get here. And it might not even be here. It might be someplace else.
Okay.
Just
Supervisor
I
Conover.
think that the remediation of space will be a huge step forward. But that was always a stumbling block, is that, well, there's environmental issues, or there's this, or that's the other thing. So I think remediation in this space allows for the kind of discussions taking place. But let's not forget, we did not remediate all the space. We didn't remediate the windows. And but once a decision is made that the windows don't need to be modified, then we can remediate the windows, and now you have a fully remediated space that's now available for whatever you have in mind. But until that remediation and all that took place, you know, it has to be made ready for whatever ideas people have. And I think that, you know, that was always been a stumbling block, and I give you a lot of kudos and everyone involved for the remediation of the space, because I think that sets the stage for future possibilities.
Supervisor Thomas.
I recall back when, one time that we looked at this jail, there was an issue with the carrying capacity of the floor. As to, so if you put a lot of weight in there, it might not be able to handle.
Yeah, and that all dependent upon what we decide to put in there. Whether we put in storage, which is a dead weight, or whether we use a live load because we'll have offices of people in there.
Right.
So that'll be something that we have to look at, and Supervisor Conover, thank you. I mean, that was always the hurdle for us to get over with that space, was to get that space abated. Now that we have, except for the windows, because we're gonna take out windows and replace them as of yet. And we don't know that if we do put offices in there, that we wouldn't have, you're not gonna leave those windows in there for offices, so. So again, I think moving forward, I want them to do the presentation for the regional morgue, and I think you'll see they're not. Based on the operation of what this regional morgue would be. I don't feel, based on their presentation, that that's the recommended space. Square footage wise either, that would work for the morgue. But with that being said, I want them to kind of present that to you, and then you're right, we can start asking our consultants, because my individuals in my department are flat out, that we can just start looking at spaces, but I want to get a plan together of, and maybe that is we talk to the department heads, maybe it's a department head meeting and say, look, we're gonna come upon some space. What do we want to do with it? What do we do it? Do we put offices in there? And if we go to offices or storage, then I gotta look at structurally, what more do I need to add to that facility to put in there? But that may be the plan, is let's ask all the department heads throughout the county, and it's simple as probably sending an email and saying, what do you need for space? And then we can bring that through committee and kind of prioritize that. I mean, as again, the assigned council just went down to the city of Glens Falls. They're going to use space down there because the space that they had up here, it's not enough room for them. So maybe that's a perfect example right there. That's somebody that we can bring back to the county if we have the space to put them in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, we've looked at the space and I have a lot of requests for additional space that I've talked to people about. It's not ideal space for offices. The ceiling height is low. You're going to have to do some major renovations in there just to get air handling units to get airflow into various offices. So it could be an expensive project. We'll start looking at it.
Rosen McGowan.
Thank you. No matter what we do, hopefully, I don't foresee the problem as greatly as our administrator does, because of the maybe my building mindset. Especially in the use of mini splits and stuff like that, where we can get individual heat into every office. But really, if you're gonna give some thought and some pouring planning, anything, if you're doing anything sketching, I would plan on beefing up underneath, because you never know what's gonna go on the second floor. And it's better to put an I-beam where you can, and some jack posts to help, and so just thinking ahead, that's what I do. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman. I have one more question since we're on this, it's kind of brought up to some heat in the new garage. Have we thought of, was there any planning or budgeting in putting some heat out there?
So I had asked Anne Marie to bring it through the committee. I'm not sure if her committee has already happened or not, but I had asked her to bring it through her committee to request the heat for that facility. With the sale of the Cibagagi or Perkins, there's still some funding left over with it from that sale that we could use to put heat in that facility. So I have asked Scott to provide to Anne Marie an estimate of that cost, because I'm not sure, based on cost, does it exceed what we have left in the project or no?
One has come back that exceeds it, one has come back that's under what they still have remaining in the funds from the sale of Perkins. Still waiting for two others.
Is it natural gas or propane?
One is one and one is the other.
So I bet you the cheapest propane. Okay. Would be the avenue that I would look, because it's not like we're gonna be using a whole lot. It's gonna be a little, maintaining temperature of 50 degrees or something, but
That's what we said it as, is basically that, where it's a minimum of 50 degrees. And we're looking at it in two different ways. Whether we're splitting it up between two bays or putting a unit on the top and running the vents through.
Would you like to add that to the future discussions, after, Kevin gets over and good?
I'll get a hold of Anne Marie after this meeting, or I've already have a couple of emails into her anyways.
All right, thank you.
All right. Joseph Land Museum.
Joseph Land Museum, I just saw that there was a request for a meeting coming up. The plans and specs are being finalized, so it can go out to bid for construction, but I think the meeting coming up, and Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, is more or less looking for interior furnishings and such for the facility. I believe by the middle to the end of November, I will have a complete plan and specifications from Labella to go out to bid for that project to start construction in the spring.
Sounds good.
Great. Any comments on that? Any questions? If not, we'll move down to referrals and pending items.
Referral and pending items, the first one is designed for the updates to the front entrance. As I spoke with you all last committee meeting, we were gonna have the finalized drawings. You have the finalized drawings in front of you. I'm also gonna pass out kind of a depiction of what it would look like in a different concept, and I'll have Scott pass those around. We have an estimate for this work. I don't want to scare all of you by the minimum but the estimate for this work total, based on what you see on the plan, is approximately $5.6 million. Now, with that being said, there's about a 30% contingency within that budget. We don't have to do all this stuff, and as I talked about it all along, we didn't have to do it. We don't even have to do the way that they have, and you'll see on your sheets, it's split up in zones. We don't even have to do it the way the zones are split up. We can piecemeal this however we want. I think the biggest area that we were looking at from the beginning was the front entrance area. And as you'll see, they've done a fantastic job, I think, of pushing this front entrance area and creating that memorial in there, as well as kind of as you see the front entrance, a shift in our access road, which would provide a much better approach into this facility. I think that area in there, all in with that zone 4, is probably about 1.3 to 1.6 million. But again, it does not all have to be done at one time.
Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you. Sorry to be so talky today, but we talked about the sending in between parking space, really for snow removal. This is very warm and calming design. I think it would hit our county buildings and probably put us on the top of New York State of municipality buildings appearances. Especially with the getting rid of all that concrete in the front, but we've been working for a couple. Snow removal was a concern. This is beautiful, but what do you? I mean, I know you can't say our winters are going to be light as forever, but
So I can talk to that a little bit. So I will. It's hard to explain because if you're not here during one of the snowstorms and how we do our plowing, we looked at that as well. That was always a concern of mine. Some of the things that they have on here, like you'll see the front parking lot out in front of the courthouse. We basically plow north and south. So in all reality, that except for maybe those bump outs in those islands, that really doesn't hurt us. In the HSB building, typically we plow east and west. So over there, and DMV, the same thing, east and west. So in those areas, it doesn't typically hurt us, except maybe a couple of the bump outs here and there. We can, and again, it'll come down. This is a concept plan, and it's if we want to tweak it, make changes, not do everything they have in every single zone, we can do that. This was what we felt was a overall, how should the county center look? How does it match in DMV with human services, with the front entrance area, with the courthouse, with public health in the back wanting a kind of a covered canopy on their parking lot with charging stations for some of their vehicles. So that's what we asked them to do. again, there's about with that 5.3 to 5.7 or whatever $1 million. There's a 30% contingency in there, and we did that because, again, it's at this is at a 30,000 foot view. It's not at a, a view on the ground that we'd be doing it. It's just kind of concept area. So I would hope that we can piecemeal some of this over the years, and I would hope that I can work with the budget officer going into next year, and we can pick out some of these things to do historically front entrance area. I don't know that we can get all of that through what's left in the court, but we will get as much as we can left that's in that court project or that court funding project.
Supervisor Thomas?
Does that estimate include the portal for the nurses?
It does.
Supervisor Stroud?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the entryway, Kevin, I don't think DOT would ever design it that way. You have the conflict of cars because we have a wing road. I know a few intersections designed as such because of potential conflicts. But then at the end, you have quite a right-hand turn. If you're going to go to the DMV, that could be softened. But again, most of your intersections are designed not to have an internal conflict or potential conflict like that does. I suggested getting rid of the wing roads and make it more of a traditional intersection. Just my suggestion.
Thank you. Supervisor Conover?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the plan's come a long way. I would say that, just once again, I think that there needs to be a stormwater plan. How we're gonna handle all this stormwater. Because I think there may be some opportunities there in terms of handling the stormwater, perhaps with even some grants going forward. But I like the idea, given the price tag on all of this and knowing where we are financially, that I think that having a master plan of a blueprint, if you will, of where we would like to go, and then maybe putting it into like a phasing, maybe different phases as priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, etc. I think is in order here, because I don't know that we're going to be wanting to spend $5 million tomorrow. So I think that that would be my recommendation, also just as finishing up the blueprint with maybe a phasing strategy, which would also might help in terms of strategy, in terms of the monies as well.
Right.
And the little things like that bump out area, the sitting area out in front. It's okay to keep that as part of the plan, but I wouldn't expend dollars doing that. You see what I'm saying? It's a little thing that comes out, this little walk area. Believe it or not, something like that, it could easily be $100,000. By the time you grade and do all the things that you need to do relative to that. So I wouldn't include that, but if you want to include it, it's fine as a nicety, but I don't know that I put it into the high on the phasing end. And I like what you did with the perimeter road. I think that you've integrated that into the whole stratagem, and I like that very much.
Thank you. Superintendent Hajost?
Just a couple of things to Supervisor Stroud. Believe it or not, that type of entrance, that right in and right out only, DOT does like that because it prevents less of a conflict for that happening. When people are coming north, they're only taking the right in only. They can't come up to the main intersection. When you come up to a main intersection, that prevents more of a bottleneck in that area. So those slip ramps, and you can see it on your roundabouts. They have those slip ramps. That's what they prefer to have is something like that, because it's less of a conflict. So anybody going north on 9, it's right out only. No one's going to come from the straight and through section to go out. They're just going to do the right in, right out only. As far as bumping it in, that got us, that helped us, because we were having a conflict right now where we don't have a stop coming in our facility. So there was a conflict with the ring road and people going back out of the county center. So this will improve that significantly within that area. And it provides us a little bit more storage. If you had 5, 6, 7 cars coming to the county center at one time. Right now, it bottles up. With this, it'll provide you a little bit more room to do that. As far as what Supervisor Conover said, yeah, there's not a, I mean, there's a lot of things in here that if we put it out to a contractor, it could cost us those. There's some things that, you know, my staff, depending on size of staff, we may be able to do in-house. And that would save us significant costs if we could do something. Even if we had to do some of the excavation and removal of pavement, we could do it in a house. If we could put in the storm drainage, and that's not even depicted on here. That's kind of, again, this is that high level. We know we have to do storm drainage, but we can also get a lot of grants, and we talked to Soil and Water about getting some green grants to do some of the stormwater collection here as well. So there could be savings based on those numbers that I gave you, if we could take on some of this in-house, but again, it depends on staff.
Good, this is a good start, very good.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor McGowan.
Yes. Just to reiterate, I believe Supervisor Stroud concern, was that top of the mustache right here? Turning that, is that what you're talking, not really coming up for Route 9, but that mustache turn to BOD?
Got a truck and there's a car already in that intersection, you're gonna have a tough time making a right-hand turn.
Right here.
And I understand that, but remember, that's going to be a stop intersection now, probably a 3-way stop for that, so it'll be a little bit of a difference. Yeah, but again, it pushes us away from having the conflicts with the traffic at Route 9.
Yeah, but if you have a truck with a plow and there's a car there at the stop sign and you want to make a right to the DMV, you're gonna have to wait till that car moves before you know that. Just because of the obliqueness of the angle.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think they use auto turn on this, which is a program to use to see what type of truck radiuses are turning to do on there, but we would certainly ourselves look at that radius and use that auto turn to adjust that.
Yeah, this is just conceptual, right?
Yeah, we'll have more discussion. on
Yeah,
it.
because I'm just thinking the WB Mason truck alone is gonna have a problem, forget the plow.
All right, want to move along.
Skip,
No, I'm sorry.
you know, just so we coordinate thought. Ethan, you know, of course, is working on improvements, you know, with the grant funding for the Warren County Bikeway, making it safer, making it better, making it more interconnected. And there's been more than one conversation. Trying to conceptually say that parking lot where we have the EV stations.
Right.
Could be a parking lot that welcomes guests that come off of exit 20, for example. To have a parking area to be able to use the Warren County Bikeway. We would like to have the interconnect from that parking lot to the Warren County Bikeway. That would help interconnect Gurney Lane, Rush Pond, and everything else. So conceptually, can we show a offshoot from that parking lot heading northward? That could be a possible Warren County Bikeway interconnect. And that would tie in with what Ethan and others are trying to do.
Sure. Superintendent Hagos, I'm sure will take a look at that.
We can, yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. One more item.
Last item we had on there was the magnetometer at the DMV. As I said last month, we have the magnetometer ready to be plugged in. It's, I was hoping that maybe Sheriff LaFar or Under Sheriff Como would be here to discuss. But we can talk about them as far as staffing that, but the magnetometer is ready to go. I say it's there.
Yeah, we just need to coordinate or establish whatever the staffing needs with the sheriff's department.
Correct.
Okay, privilege of the floor, unless, are there any other comments here? If not, privilege of the floor, any comments from the public?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just very quickly, I want to commend Superintendent Hagos and one of his engineers making homes and several members of the DPW
in the last few weeks, we had a public meeting in town of Porcon referencing 2 bridge replacements. It was very well attended, and many positive comments during and after the meeting that I received on the professionalism, the credibility, and the courtesy of the superintendent and his entire staff. So I just want to on the record that we're greatly appreciate it.
We like to hear that.
I think it should be noted. Very good, thank you. Anyone else, any member of the public? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.